Hey, I'm Ronny Chieng. I did a stand-up comedy competition at the University of Melbourne, and I won that competition. And then I started to do shows outside of university and lost that competition. And then I just kept doing it and doing it, and I just got addicted to it. So yeah, that's how I got into comedy. I was studying a law and commerce degree at the University of Melbourne. Making people laugh involuntarily is the best part. First gig was at the University of Melbourne Union House, and it was the 2009 campus comedy competition, March 2009, and I got video of that show. Story about night bombed very badly. How can I? Where do I start? So many. Maybe tonight. I feel like I just got there. I think the one that I probably hate the most is I think it was in Busselton, Western Australia, and I think it was a music festival, and for some reason in Australia we don't. It's not like the UK where they love comedy so much they're willing to watch comedy at an outdoor music festival. In Australia, people really love music. And Paul, this is a Paul F. Tompkins joke, but he said like for some reason music before comedy makes people really happy, but for some reason comedy before music makes people go fucking insane. And we would do these outdoor shows, and I came prepared. You know, I did my homework. I wasn't like doing new stuff or anything, and I wasn't doing so well. And that's the thing about comedy. It's a live event, and sometimes you just have a bad game. You know, like no one's fault really. I mean, it's just you just have a bad game or whatever the variable is that affects it. You know, whether it's the outdoors or. But if you don't want to make excuses, it's just sometimes you have a bad game. And so I was doing this set, and not going great, I guess. Daytime, it's hot, outdoors, and 5 minutes into the set, someone just goes boring, boring, like a group of like three guys. And so I start to like tell them off. And then at one point, I threatened to throw them out of the festival, which I had absolutely no authority to do. And I kept saying like, okay, well, guys, if you keep acting like fucking pieces of shit, I'm going to ask security here to throw these guys out. And security was right in front of me, but security wasn't going to listen to me. But nobody knew that. Only I knew that because security started shaking their head at me. But no one else could see security other than me. So I'm just like, yeah, this guy's going to throw you out. Do you want to get thrown out of the festival? And then that shut them up for a bit. And then I was trying to be professional. I just continued the set, but it was destined to fail. And then they started again, boring. They started the chance of boring. And I just like powered through it. And so I did the set through the chance of boring. And then I just said, okay, you guys have been awesome. And then I just went off the stage. And you know what? I wasn't as emotionally affected by that as I thought it would be. I'm glad that happened to me when I had a reasonable amount of experience. But yeah, I always fuck that festival in Busselton. Fuck those guys. But love comedy. Love the rest of the audiences. Yeah. I think that was the worst one. I'm trying to. That's the one I can remember. Everything else I kind of blocked off like Wolverine. You know how like Wolverine like heals over his memories because they're too painful. They're like physical wounds. Yeah, I kind of did that with comedy. Favorite comedians? Really love Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Todd Barry, Will Anderson, Dave Hughes, Anthony Morgan, Australian legends. Judith Lucy, dude, so many. Tom Gleason, killer. Yeah. I had so many, man. We could keep naming names all day. That's just from not my peers, right? If you want to go peers, the list goes forever. Honestly, I mean, everything was really cool. It's hard to pick one. Everything was really cool. From getting a Netflix special to getting hired on the Daily Show to selling my first ticket at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. Someone paid money to see me. Doing meeting really cool comics who were really encouraging to me. Everything's been a real highlight. I've definitely been really lucky. More wins than losses. That's for sure. Oh, that's an interesting question. I think when I started, I'm sound like a fucking old man right now. I'm just 35, but when I started, I was 24, and it was 2009, 2010 in Australia, and that was when the internet was. YouTube had been around for about 5 years at that point, and so people were trying to harness that thing, but I just came up from this. I didn't know at the time, but essentially it was like an old school style of approach to business of comedy, which was we make money from selling tickets. As antiquated as that sounds, it was the tickets were the money maker. It didn't really matter what else you do. Even TV, you didn't make as much money as you could if you actually sold a room. So our focus was on selling tickets, and so I never thought of like doing a show on YouTube or making content regularly, which obviously has become the norm now, right? You're kind of expected to make all this stuff, have Instagram videos, do a podcast, and we just never. I shouldn't say we. I just never kind of came up in that, and so I focus all my energy into doing stand-up, and there's something weird about stand-up comedy that is like a block that prevents you from thinking like a internet content creator, because the thing about comedy, stand-up comedy, is like you're so precious about your bits, and sometimes overly so. I'm not saying this is the right way to do things. I'm just saying that most comics are very precious about their bits, very protective. This bit, like, wait until it's ready. And even when it's ready, it's like, no, I'm saving it for a special. It's like we don't want to like release stuff. And so which is completely counterintuitive to kind of like the internet model, which is constantly you have to release stuff to make it work. You have to be always making new stuff so that you get subscribers and you reward the existing subscribers. And no one really figured it out, really. And imagine we've had 2005 YouTube started, and obviously all the other social media platforms that have started since then. So we've had about 15 years of having social media video content on the internet, and no one's really figured out how to do stand-up on that other than Andrew Schultz. It took Andrew Schultz until 2018, 2017, around that period, and even then, even now 2020, he's kind of like the only one doing it. And I'm very well aware that a lot of comics have successful podcasts and Instagrams. If you're coming at me with that, you don't understand what I'm saying. I'm saying that no one has figured out how to do stand-up on the internet in a regular content format. You can do a podcast, but a podcast isn't stand-up. You can do sketches, but sketches isn't stand-up. You can do you could even do vlogs like this, and this isn't really stand-up. So only Andrew Schultz, in my opinion, actually figured out how to do stand-up on social media, so that when people pay money to go watch him, it's the same thing, right? It's not this disconnect of like, he's got a great podcast, I'll go watch his stand-up. So that's probably the thing that like changed the most since I started, is this kind of like internet thing. And I'm like a young guy who is like super into technology and the internet. So if it can pass me by, it can pass anyone by. Yeah, it's tons of advice, man. Where do I begin? I would say be self-aware of your own material. It's very hard for anyone to tell you something's not working, even your best friend. It's like trying to tell someone they have BO. It's very hard to tell someone that, hey, that isn't working. You have to be self-aware. You have to be harsh on yourself. And someone once told me, the tech guy at the Comedy Store from a while ago told me, Phil. Phil told me being professional means, he's a musician, and he said being professional means being able to see what went wrong, but not being emotional about it. And that's I think that's essential. You know, you're able to say self-awareness, but also don't get emotional about it, which is hard because this is a very egotistical activity, right? You're pouring your mind and your energy and your ideas into something. If it doesn't work, it's very disappointing. But you have to be you can't be overly emotional about it. You have to think professionally. If this is your job, you have to be able to correct and use that to make the thing that works, not just wallow in the thing that's not working. And I think the other side of it is the social side of comedy. It's a community of people. Alan Havey at the Comedy Cellar told me that in stand-up comedy, we're all in it for ourselves, but we're in it together. And I think that that really rings really true in the sense that like we're all kind of in the same community, and it's very easy to get political. But first of all, there's no reason to be upset at the politics of comedy, because politics are in every human endeavor. So comedy should be no different. So obviously there's social politics at play in comedy. So instead of complaining about the fact that there's politics in comedy, acknowledge that there's politics anywhere there's human beings doing things, and get on with it. And get on with it by getting stage time, and that's it. So all this politics and whose room, and it's just about stage time. So don't let that kind of weird clickiness get to you. Just get stage time, get better. You know, be friends with everybody, because no one can do it on their own. No one can do this on your own. Even though it's a solo sport, at some point, you are going to get a TV show and you're going to need to ask people to help you with it. Or someone's going to ask you to help them with their TV show. So whatever it is, we need each other for the breaks. That's how it works. And forget the fact that it helps you get work. It's just the right thing to do. Like, just be a nice person to everyone you see, because, you know, people are fragile. So if being a nice person isn't a good enough reason for you to be a nice person, then think of it from the business point of view, is that, like I said, everyone is at some point is going to call on their friends to work with them. And you want to work with people who are talented and you get along with. So it's as simple as that, you know. What's next? I don't know, man. I don't know. Trying to do it's always the next joke, right? That's what's next. It's the next funny joke. Hey, everybody who's watching the Sit Down Comedy Club YouTube channel or social media, thanks for watching this. I got nothing to plug. Just take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time I see you.